I'm gonna get right to it. We've got a whole lot of parts for the JZ. This is my cat. How's it going? Happy New Year, happy 2021, goodbye 2020, hopefully. Hope everyone's year is already starting out well. Getting right to it, jumping into the first video of the new year. We are, of course, as always, working with the JZ for the Chevy Nova. And I've got all sorts of parts scattered everywhere, including some new stuff. But first things first, let's get all this pulled out. All right, now we got a lot of boxes. Let's get those open. So as you can see, I've got quite the spread going here, and I'm kind of going to start, I'll go from the right, go to the left. So starting off, I've got a new fuel cell, and ignore the tape, it's just covering a hole. That's going to be for the actual pump and hanger setup. This is from RCI. I got it through Speedway, and this is a Speedway universal fuel pump hanger setup basically. And long story short, you kind of cut it to fit for your application. It comes with a Walbro 255, which is enough fuel pump to support my immediate goals on this engine, and I won't need to worry about fuel pump for a little while. The fuel cell itself is replacing the plastic unit that I have in the car still, and that one is only about an 8-gallon unit. This is a 22-gallon, so I will have much better range. It'll look good in black. I've got some matching RCI straps for that, and it should be a pretty easy install, but I will need to make some new fuel lines. There's going to be a feed and a return because the 1JZ is a return system. Moving on, I've got an OEM set of gaskets, and I'm going to do my best to basically replace as many gaskets as I can. Funny story, I got this from a distributor on eBay, and by my math, I think this gasket set has almost circumnavigated the globe because obviously it came from Japan originally. When I bought it, it was actually in the UAE, so it had gone from Japan to the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East, and then during the tracking for the shipping, I watched it go through Germany, the East Coast, all the way west around the world till it got here to Southern California. So it's been all the way from Japan to here the long way around the globe, which is kind of fun. Up next from CX Racing, and don't knock the CX Racing. I know some people have some opinions about them, but for certain parts, actually, they're pretty good. I've got an air-to-air intercooler here, pretty big core. This is, I believe, a 31 by 11 or 12. I don't remember exactly, but I know lots of people that have good luck with CX Racing intercoolers. An intercooler is an intercooler as long as it's a good bar and plate design, efficient enough core, and it's got the fitment that you need. It's a solid piece. There's no moving parts, so it's pretty hard to go wrong. I'm gonna do my best to blow it out, make sure there's no grit or anything inside it before I install it, of course. CX Racing also actually makes this, and this is basically a replacement for the hood latch bracket on the Chevy Nova. They actually sell this along with this actual same core intercooler as part of an LS turbo kit that they sell. I just pick and chose the parts that I needed out of that kit individually. I'm going to get some piping later on once I kind of fit everything up in here. But I've already test fitted it, and the core should fit pretty darn well. I might have to futz around with the bracket a little bit, bend it here, drill some different holes there. But I should be in pretty good shape. I cannot wait to kind of get that to work because it's going to be awesome having kind of like a mid-mount setup in the front here. It's going to sit fairly high because I'm going to have it flipped upside down of where they had it on the CX Racing kit for the LS setup. It had the charge pipes going underneath the core support. I don't want to do that. I'm going to have the charge pipes going through the core support on either side of the radiator, and I think this should fit pretty much perfect. I've already test fitted it a little bit, like I said. And that's true for a lot of these parts here, actually. I have test fitted the engine, actually. The last video that I had working with the JZ was a test fit of the engine for the second time, and I was trying to figure out mounts. And what I actually decided to do was get rid of them. And what I mean by that is get rid of the Chevy mounts. And as you can see where there's a couple bolt holes right down here, that's where the Chevy mounts used to go. And you can see the stock JZ mounts right here. And I decided to go ahead and get rid of the Chevy mounts in order to get the engine back a little bit farther than I was able to before. And it fits awesome. I actually have a couple parts here. So this is the factory turbo elbow. And the reason it's off, I'll show you in just one second. And this is the factory water lines that go to the turbo, which couples with these. This is from a company called Kinagawa Turbos. They're based in, I think they're originally a Japanese company. Most of their distribution is based in Taiwan, but they're actually a totally legit turbo company, aftermarket turbo, cartridges, upgrades, full replacements. A lot of their stuff bolts in factory location and such, fits like factory, but it's just upgraded internals and stuff like that. And they have a turbo line set up for the 1JZ, for the factory CT15 turbo. And I had an issue where the factory hard lines would interfere in the location that I wanted to put it, interfere with the upper control arm here. So I noticed that their lines have this handy fitting here that instead of going up underneath the compressor housing here, they actually come out more straight from the cartridge and route around. I might have to get like a 45 or 90 degree fitting to make them fit like super perfect, but it's already plenty perfect. And right now the engine isn't in its final location, but it's pretty close. Before, this bolt was not accessible pretty much at all because it was basically right in line with the compressor housing. So I was able to move the engine back at least 2 or 3 whole inches, and it gave me a lot more room as well for the fans. Whereas before, these pulleys would have been like right here. Now I have room for like my whole fist and some room. So I can't wait for that. Another really, really nice piece is my UpFab downpipe. Pretty simple piece. It's a integrated recirculating wastegate flange in the back here, and it's a 3-inch stainless steel TIG welded, the whole nine. Super nice piece. I also have, and oh, just as a note, look how well this fits. There's like 3 or 4 inches of space all the way around it, and I could not be happier with the fitment. This is sort of I don't want to say a universal piece, but it's meant to fit a variety of left-hand drive cars, and I will have no issues with this at all. It points perfectly in line with the firewall edge, just straight down, so I'll have tons of exhaust options. I've got these beauties, and these are aluminum, TIG welded again, and these are a J-pipe delete kit, and what that is the J-pipe is this intake pipe here, big cast piece. It incorporates a couple things. There's some smog stuff, the factory blow-off valve or bypass valve, whatever you want to call it, and the factory intake elbow going into the inlet of the turbo, or sorry, the outlet coming out of the compressor side of the turbo. And I just kind of wanted to clean all that stuff up and give myself some more options for piping and such. I'm basically going to be converting all the piping, including the intercooler, filter, everything to 3-inch, and then just step down as needed to the factory throttle body. And so I've got some custom spec 3-inch ends on here. As you can see, it's quite a step up from the factory, and that'll help clean up the look. It'll help, gain some real estate for other components, lines, and other things like that. And I can't wait. These things are awesome, super well fabricated, and good thick flanges and everything. Can't wait for that. Also related from a company called Performance MRP. If you can see that there. This is a MAF sensor housing. Super, super nice piece. And the key deal with this is the MAF sensor and housing that came with my engine from JDM Westside. As you can see, it's a little worse for wear. They just kind of cut these things out of the cars that they're in. This is supposed to be attached to like a factory. It's like an elbow or an airbox or something. And I can't use this. There's no way to get tubing on this one end, and this end is completely cracked. I think it's almost all the way through. So this is going to replace all of that with the bonus of what's called an air straightener. So these honeycombs are basically designed to straighten the air and give a nice clean signal to the MAF sensors, so I won't hopefully have any airflow like tuning issues, and give a nice strong signal to the wire that is in the MAF sensor. This is funny because this is actually a piece that I think is intended for like an STI, but they actually use the same Denso part number for the MAF sensor. So now, the remainder of the parts here come from, well, the supplier was Drift HQ, and if you have a BMW drift car, especially if you have an E36 or a similar generation, they have a bunch of drift parts for BMWs, and they have a bunch of other stuff too. And why that is relevant to me is this bad boy over here. This is a ZF GS6-53BZ 6-speed transmission from, this is actually out of a 2009 135i, but the 135, 335i, the 535i, and the M3, actually, the E90 M3, and the, I believe the M5 possibly, but I know the M3 also use the same transmission, but the M3 has like a pump for a fluid cooler on the side of it, so it's a different spec, it's a little more expensive, but this thing is basically the same in anything that came with an N54, and this company, called PMC Motorsport, has an adapter kit to take one of these transmissions to the JZ. They're a company based out of the UK, and they have some amazing pieces here. Really cool etching and machining and stuff. Everything is labeled to JZ to M54, that sort of thing. And basically, I'm sure some people are wondering, why on earth would you want a BMW transmission in an American car? Well, I mean, I already have a Japanese transmission or engine in it, so I might as well, kind of come full circle here. But this is a pretty beef unit from ZF. The early 3 Series cars, so I'm talking like E36, E46, the 330i's and M3s and such had optional 6 speeds, and they're pretty good, but they're pretty beefy transmissions. Even the 5 speeds, I know people with the 5 speeds, and they're really strong. You can get like 600-700 horsepower through them, sometimes dead stock. This is kind of the big brother of that. This is a little bit smaller than a CD09. Fits a little bit better than, say, like a T56 and such. It's especially shorter, and it gives a little bit more flexibility for things like shifter location and other things. But the biggest draw with this is that they're plenty affordable. They're no more expensive than like a CD09, much cheaper than a T56. And these suckers are known to hold anywhere from 800 to 1,000 horsepower absolutely stock. This is similar to what you would find in like the OEM Getrag 6-speed that was found in the Mark IV Super Turbo, or even the old school 911 Turbo S, like a Porsche. They were known to have really strong transmissions. This is something that's in a similar vein to that. It's just a really strong OEM transmission, and they're known to shift really nice. They're fairly lightweight, and like I said, a little bit better footprint than something like a CD09 from a 350Z or something like that. And I've got it spec'd with PMC's Stage 1 clutch kit, which actually, as far as I can tell based off the part number, it's a Sachs part number. And from what I can tell, this appears to be, in essence, it's a single disc organic full face clutch, but it appears to be an OEM M5 clutch. I don't remember the generation, the E60 M5. Basically the same generation as you would find around like an E90, which is where my transmission is from. So kind of similar generation fitment of things going on here with BMW components. And last but not least, I have this beautiful component all the way from Latvia, also via Drift HQ. They are a distributor for individual racing parts, or IRP. This is their this is the V3 BMW shifter, and it works on a variety of Getrag and ZF transmissions, as long as you pair it with the appropriate shifter rod, which I will get a custom one made once I kind of fit everything up in the car. I'll put this exactly where I want it on the trans tunnel, mount it up, and then measure for that shift rod. And this is really, when they say the bee's knees, this is, this is it. This is basically a motorsport shifter. Really cool. All these links and such have like bearings in them. It's not just some washers or something. If you follow my good friend Greg Peters at the Car Passion channel, he has one of these paired with another BMW transmission behind his 400 plus wheel horsepower turbo Miata engine, and he says it's crazy. He says it's almost too short. It's basically a short shifter with a long handle that nets an incredibly good feel, and it puts the handle up right near the shifter, or near the steering wheel, so that your hand is never too far away from it when shifting. And I cannot wait for this. and I hope you guys will stay along for the ride. I know it's been a little while since I've had an update. Things have been really, really busy. 2020, of course, kind of shot everyone's builds in the foot, but I hope you can stick with it, and I'll try to stick with it, and hopefully in the next couple months we'll make some big headway, start making mounts, do some fabrication, start chopping stuff up. But that's for next time, and I will see you then. Thanks for watching.